Netflix just dropped a documentary about Michael Jackson, and the timing is not a coincidence. The Michael Jackson biopic just came out. $97 million opening weekend. Old fans came back. New fans discovered him for the first time. For one brief moment, the world was celebrating Michael Jackson again. And then, Netflix released The Verdict. 3 episodes, painting the picture of a monster who got away with hurting children, right in the middle of that celebration. So we did what Netflix didn't do. We went and found the actual court documents, the real testimonies, the records Netflix had access to and chose not to show you. What we found is a case built on discredited journalists, conflicted prosecutors, unverified evidence, and a family with a documented history of running this exact scam on other celebrities long before they ever met Michael Jackson. I'm going to show you all of it, line by line, with the receipts. Hit that like button and subscribe before we get into this. Let's go. To understand why The Verdict exists, you have to understand the man who started all of this, Martin Bashir, the British journalist who made Living with Michael Jackson in 2003. That documentary is the entire reason the 2005 trial happened. Netflix brings him back, frames him as a credible, respected journalist who finally got the real story. Here is what Netflix left out. Bashir's big career break was landing a Princess Diana interview in 1995. In 2021, a full BBC investigation revealed how he actually got it. He faked bank statements. He had a designer mock up fraudulent documents to manipulate Diana's brother into giving him access. The BBC found this. It is documented and on the record. So the man whose documentary launched the entire Michael Jackson case, Netflix's credible starting point, is a journalist proven to have used fabricated documents to gain the trust of his most famous subjects. He ran the exact same play on Michael that he ran on Diana. Earn the trust, then destroy them in the edit. Netflix never mentioned any of it, not one word. That is lie number 1. Netflix needed someone to narrate the trial, someone the audience would trust. They chose Diane Dimond, a reporter who has been on a Michael Jackson witch hunt since 1993. Here is what you need to know before you trust a single word she says. The biggest story Dimond ever broke about Michael Jackson was a videotape one she told the entire country was real. A tape that supposedly showed Michael doing something criminal to a child. The tape never existed. It traced back to one source, a man named Victor Gutierrez, who claimed he had seen it. Dimond took that claim straight to national television and told millions of people it was real. Michael Jackson sued her for defamation. He didn't win on a technicality, but the tape was still completely fabricated. That is who Netflix chose as their credible voice. The reporter who spread a false story about Michael to millions of people, who inside The Verdict inserts her own opinions and even personal stories from her own book, including a claim about Michael partying with random German boys in a Las Vegas hotel room that exists nowhere except her own writing. That is lie number 2. The documentary leans heavily on Ron Zonen, one of the lead prosecutors from the 2005 trial. He is all over The Verdict, painting Michael as a calculated predator. Netflix presents him as the ultimate insider. Here is what Netflix didn't tell you. During the trial, the prosecution called a witness named Louise Palanker, a woman who had known the Arizo family for years and given them money and gifts. A witness for the accusers. Ron Zonen and Louise Palanker entered into a romantic relationship during the trial period. They later got married. Legal experts have stated clearly if this relationship had been known at the time, Zonen could have been removed from the case entirely for conflict of interest. So the man giving you authoritative analysis of why Michael was guilty inside a Netflix documentary was romantically involved with a prosecution witness who was personally close to the accusing family. Netflix does not mention this, not once. That is lie number 3. Now let's talk about what Netflix presents as hard evidence. The magazine story. A former publicist named Vincent Amen says that after the Neverland raid, Michael's assistant gave him a bag of items. Inside was a naturist magazine with video listings, circled listings containing nudist family content. Amen says this changed his mind about Michael completely. Here is what Netflix left out. That magazine was never tested for fingerprints, never entered as evidence at trial. It didn't come from Neverland directly, it came from a bag someone handed Amen personally. Nobody knows who circled those listings, And across both Neverland raids in 1993 and 2003, investigators found none of the videos those listings advertised. Zero. The only thing supporting this story is Eamon's word from a family now trying to extract millions from the Jackson estate by changing their story. Netflix presents this as a defining moment. It is an unverified claim from a source with a financial motive. The fingerprint argument. One adult magazine found in the raid had both Michael's and Gavin's fingerprints on it. The documentary presents this as proof Michael showed it to the child. What multiple staff members testified to under oath, the Arizo children regularly went through Michael's personal belongings when he wasn't even there. A fingerprint tells you a child touched a magazine. It does not tell you who handed it to them or when. That is lie number 4. This is the part that changes everything. Netflix frames the Arizo family as victims. Struggling single mother, sick child with cancer, a vulnerable family exploited by a powerful celebrity. Here is who the court record actually shows them to be. In 1998, years before meeting Michael, Gavin was caught shoplifting at JCPenney. The family was confronted by security. Gavin's mother then sued JCPenney, claiming the security guards assaulted her in the parking lot. She won $150,000, then immediately applied for government assistance and was later charged with welfare fraud. Netflix includes this. But what they don't tell you is that JCPenney wasn't the only time. And Michael Jackson was not the first celebrity this family targeted. Before Michael, they ran the same play on Chris Tucker. Someone approached Tucker at a show, said his son had cancer, and was a huge fan. Chris, being a good person, opened his life to the kid. Trips, theme parks, real kindness. Then the family showed up on the set of Rush Hour 2 and wouldn't leave. The kids were so disruptive that production asked Chris Tucker personally to stop bringing them around. Tucker testified at the 2005 trial that Gavin was, his exact words, unusually cunning and sophisticated for a child his age. Then they did the same thing to George Lopez. Lopez testified they just kept coming, always needing the next thing, always leveraging the same story. Two of the most famous comedians in America, same family, same pattern. Before Michael Jackson ever met them. Netflix gives you a vulnerable family taken advantage of by a powerful man. The court record gives you something completely different. That is not a small omission. That is the entire story. Here is the single most important fact in this entire video. The fact the actual jury pointed to when explaining their verdict. The Bashir documentary came out in February 2003. It blew up overnight. Michael and Gavin became the biggest story in the world. Child Services opened a case. Police started looking. The FBI got involved. Right in the middle of all of that, the prosecution's own timeline says the abuse started after the world was already watching, after investigations were already open, after Michael Jackson was already under more scrutiny than almost any human being alive. The most famous person on earth, already knowing he was being watched, supposedly chose that exact moment to begin abusing a child. The jury found this impossible to believe. And there is one more detail they highlighted. After the alleged abuse had supposedly already been happening, the Arizo children asked to sleep in Michael's room one night. A staff member said no one could enter without Michael present. The children insisted. They really wanted to go in. As one juror said directly, what child would voluntarily seek out the room where awful things were being done to them? 14 counts. Not guilty on every single one. So here is what Netflix built the verdict on. Martin Bashir, proven by the BBC to have used fabricated documents, never mentioned. Diane Diamond, who spread a completely false story about Michael to millions of people, never mentioned. Ron Zonin, romantically involved with a prosecution witness, never mentioned. A magazine that was never fingerprinted, never entered at trial, from a source now chasing the estate for millions, never mentioned. A fingerprint the actual testimony directly explains away. Buried a family that ran this same pattern on Chris Tucker and George Lopez first. One paragraph. A timeline, the prosecution's own timeline, placing the alleged abuse after the entire world was already watching, glossed over. This is what Netflix calls a documentary, released in 2026, against a man who has been dead for 17 years and cannot respond, to 200 million subscribers who had no idea what the court records actually said. Now you do. Subscribe and hit the bell. This story is not finished. Drop a comment should Netflix have released this right in the middle of the biopic run. I read every single one.